U.S. government agencies are taking concerted efforts to implement a zero trust architecture to protect critical systems and data. Those efforts include meeting a number of cybersecurity standards and objectives by the end of fiscal year 2024, a big task for many agencies. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to talk about that effort at the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, better known as FDIC, is Stephen Haselhorst, the FDIC Zero Trust Program Lead. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Wyatt, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Before we start, give us a brief sense for the scope of FDIC's responsibilities and in particular the IT operations that support them.
Sure. So the FDIC, most of us know us just by that logo that you have on your banks where you get your money's insured up to $250,000. We do far more than that. Our mission is to make sure that we maintain the stability and confidence in the banking system for the United States so that people have confidence that they can use our banks and their money is safe. We do that in many ways by performing multiple audits, verifying that they're meeting standards, the banks are, and helping banks out whenever they're in trouble. So we do that in numerous ways. And I would say that we're a little bit of a unique organization where we have a far greater number of users that are external users to our network than ourselves. So it's a little bit of a unique dynamic and a little bit more difficult than some organizations might have it when you're trying to, for instance, adopt zero trust.
Yeah, I bet. Well, talk to me a little, if you would, about some of your top priorities in the next year to meet federal zero trust security requirements, and then maybe your thoughts looking longer term.
Sure. So great question. And for one, we're definitely tracking with OMB 2209 and the requirements that they have us to meet and trying to march to that cadence that we meet those objectives. But really, we are making sure that we're organizing around zero trust. So establishing a zero trust program or as I call it, zero trust task force, a group that is dedicated, focused, has other people in the different task areas or pillar areas supporting us. I think it's far more important that in the early years, you make sure you're organized around zero trust. You make sure that you know what it is that your strategy is, what it is that you want to accomplish, your objectives, because it's really easy to get kind of lost in the sea of vendors and capabilities that are out there, and easy to try to just quickly get some win and procure some products, implement some products, but then you'll find yourself that you're not capable of operating those products, or you haven't really shifted the mindset of your staff, and therefore you might be operating these products that are very capable of performing what we'd like to call zero trust like capabilities, but you might operate them in traditional ways. So in the first couple of years or year, we're definitely focused on organizing, establishing the foundations. We're recognizing what investments we have in place today that need maybe a little bit of a reshaping in order to align us to zero trust. There's a lot of activities that organizations have that they might not recognize that are already aligned. You might be modernizing your identity management solution. So we'll continue in the FDIC to optimize those investments as we look into the 3-year forecast and begin to transform our perimeter into more of the identity-based perimeter model. We'll begin to capitalize on investments we have today with collecting telemetry, collecting information, and making it actionable, making it something that we can use automation, use response, and therefore also our investments that we have in identity, getting a centralized identity hub, et cetera, and then furthering that cost and going towards more of a passwordless model. So I think it's the progression. And I think it's important that we really focus in the early years on organizing yourself around zero trust and what you really want to accomplish.
Well, one of the recurring themes that we've heard speaking with various agencies is kind of the common challenge of how to implement zero trust principles across multiple networks or domains or functional silos in various agencies. How is FDIC planning to try to overcome that and make sure that the various pillars, if you will, of zero trust really is developed and delivered on a uniform basis across the enterprise?
That's another great question, and I hate to keep coming back to organizing, but it's important that you set your foundations. It's important that you don't just go out and try to buy products to solve niche problems or think that you're solving some niche problems. So what we're doing at the FDIC is very early on, when I came on board, we started establishing what we call our functional requirements. By establishing functional requirements, these aren't checklist-driven type requirements. These are functional requirements that you use for designing, for establishing your SOPs, for establishing the way we need to be thinking about our solutions. Further, after developing the requirements, we've established a solution architecture that's agnostic to network. So whether you're on premise, whether you're on the cloud, whether you're on isolated siloed network, you can follow the solutions architecture. It's not vendor specific, but it's very specific about how the solutions need to integrate, how they need to operate, how they need to be automated, so that different organizations, different groups across the enterprise can look at these documents, can fall in line with them. And it's extremely impossible to say that one zero trust program manager is going to architect all of the networks and everything will be the same because that one person did it. Instead, we're focusing on giving the right guidance to the organization so that all can follow and be in line. And there's always going to be exceptions, but you want to try to reduce those exceptions.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Another common issue, I think, is the fact that federal agencies have a lot of additional compliance requirements that they have to follow as part of their cybersecurity procedures that are codified by law. So I'm interested to hear, what concerns do you have about federal zero trust adoption to ensure that agencies are actually able to achieve more comprehensive and holistic security, in contrast to, still having to, in many cases, do kind of a piecemeal check the box security protection plan? And how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, so that's a conversation that comes up a lot, and there's many that want to make zero trust a checklist. There's many that want to make zero trust part of the compliance framework. We'll just ask people to do these things. The way I like to describe it, and I do, is that zero trust can supplement your compliance program, can support your compliance program, can help you meet a lot of your compliance objectives that you have to meet. But zero trust can never be looked as the checklist-driven activity. Zero trust is definitely a mindset that we instill in our organization. We all start thinking one way, and then towards that zero trust model. It's very easy to, for instance, create a checklist that says you will implement MFA, and that's one of the compliance. We will comply with multi-factor authentication, but we also want to use our identity for attribute-based access control. There's no checklist that you're going to have that says you need to have 5 attributes, 10 attributes. That's more of the mindset and the maturity that we start implementing. So I challenge everybody to look at zero trust as an enabler to meet some of their compliance standards, but also look at it beyond a checklist. Don't make it a one and done. You're never going to have, don't build a checklist that says, I've got the pillar, the identity pillar complete, the endpoint pillar complete. It's a maturity. We're going to continue to enhance, but all those enhancements do align and help support our compliance requirements.
Absolutely. And then lastly, Stephen, how is FDIC planning to unify automation and orchestration across those 5 pillars you were just referring to, around identity, devices, networks, et cetera, to truly transform your security posture?
So automation is up and foremost, the most important thing, one of the most important things, I would say. And you'll hear this from any zero trust practitioner. The way that we were approaching it, I'll go back to our functional requirements and our solutions architecture. we need to think about what we need to integrate and what we need to automate from the start. Now, technology is improving, and all of the industry and the commercial space is helping out tremendously build solutions that can be integrated through open APIs. That can be integrated through a lot of automations and partnerships that they have built between themselves. That helps us out a lot. But it doesn't mean that day one you're going to have a fully automated environment. But it does mean that from day one, you have to be thinking about the solutions that you're implementing, how you're implementing them, so that you can enable the progression of automation through your environment. Because I like to say you'll never achieve zero trust if we continue to follow the same models of today, where we're very manually driven, static configuration, static policies. And instead, we got to be driving towards these dynamic policies based on attributes, based on identity, device, and other contexts that enable us to have this mobile dynamic enterprise that otherwise would be impossible.
Absolutely. Well, Stephen Haselhorst, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to join us here and share some of your insights as you lead the FDIC's Zero Trust program and what's ahead for you and your organization. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. Have a good one.